The pirates. And so, with a shake of her rattle, Jingay moved on. Jingay reads out to Miles as she keeps him bundled up in her coils. What she was reading was one of many stories from her namesake, Jingay the Patient, a collection of 103 short stories. The first story and the last had her birth and her death. The 100 stories following the first one were all about terrible losses that she endured, and apparently the 102nd story was her winning. Unfortunately, Jingay was just as slow as her namesake when not on the job, so the stories were taking a long time. However, it meant a lot to her, a whole lot to her. She apparently had based her life on them and wanted to explain her culture and why it meant so much. The dim, deep crag Nagasha turns the page with a shake of her rattle to move the axiom and begins reading again. Jingay and the waterlogged treasure. Jingay reads out as Miles ensures to look at the pictures in the colorful book. It was odd, a moral lesson to Deep Crag Nagasha, born with disabilities, which calls to attention his own churning feelings about being married to someone mentally infirm. Even when he was nothing more than a combination teddy bear and hot water bottle to the girl, he felt kind of slimy. The picture in the book shows the image of Jingay, a deep crag Nagasha who wears a sleeveless dress. Her coloration shifts between stories. Sometimes she's got a solid color, other times there are stripes or spots. The rattle is always a pale bone white color that was apparently universal in Deep Crag Nagasha. He had questioned it earlier, but it was another part of it being inspiring. Each Jingay looked like any other Deep Crag Nagasha. She could be any Deep Crag Nagasha, such as the one he's currently wrapped up in. Jingay was having a normal day. She had done her chores and did her job. There had been talk of rain, but it hadn't happened, and that made her kind of sad because she liked the water. It was always so pretty. Jingay turns the page to show this version of Jingay, black of tail, hair and dress, slithering beside a river with her typical vacant expression. So she went and took a slither by the river. The flow of the water and the smell of the reeds made her feel great. She turns the page and it shows Jingay looking at something in the water with a surprised expression. Miles is actually somewhat thankful for these sessions. The Nagasha races use a great deal of different languages, but they have several that are like a smaller form of galactic trade that cannot be pronounced by races without a long, thin tongue, but they can be read. Then she spotted something strange and shining in the water, Jingay says, reading the looping script with Miles following to learn the language as he comforts his rather dim wife. Many of the girls from the bridge crew were fairly dull-witted, all the better to serve as Agenda's hands while within barking distance. Jingay is frankly the dimmest of the lot, but even still can read and write. She even has enough of a mind to be dangerous if provoked, but so calm and patient that provoking her to that extent results in a person who very much deserves such a thing. Franklin had likened it to the girl having a shotgun at all times. It looked like an egg, Jingay continues reading as the second half of the page shows the book character raising what looks like a crystal egg out of the water with a surprised expression on her face. The Jingay Miles is wrapped up and turns the page. She was excited. An egg of glass. Was it a glass bird? A glass Nagasha? Jingay had never seen either, but there are many things she's never seen. Jingay reads out loud. She turns the page. This time it shows the book Jingay is carrying the egg against her stomach as she leaves the river behind. She went to take the egg home and hopefully hatch what it may be, her mind wandering around as she pictured a little sister with crystal scales or a great winged friend who would shine in the sky. Jingay reads as she turns the page and shows the image of a smaller Nagasha slithering beside Jingay and made of white light. There's also another showing a great bird of light flying above her. She turns the page, and it shows the book Jingay being confronted by a larger, deep crag Nagasha wearing what looks like a uniform. When she returned to town, Officer Scales stopped her and asked about the egg. Jingay was glad to tell her everything because she was supposed to be honest to officers. She turns the page again. Now it shows an image of the officer taking the crystal egg. Unfortunately for Jingay, Officer Scales knew what the egg was. It would never hatch because it was just a rock that had gone missing and would now be returned. Jingay turns the page again. With that, she found and lost a waterlogged treasure, and so with a shake of her rattle, Jingay moved on. Then for some reason, Jingay puts in a bookmark and then lifts the large picture book back into a shelf before wrapping up even more around Miles. Why did you stop? Only Jingays like Jingay stories. They're still important, but on Vuxa only I like them. I need them. I don't understand. Why do you need them? They're what I am. To be a Jingay means you're not fast in body, not fast in mind. You're not clever. You're not cunning. You're not smart enough to be strong. You're not strong enough to not need smarts. You're just not most things. That is Jingay, she says. And he gives her a bit of a hug she leans into. But Jingay does have something that's as good as being fast, as good as being smart, and as good as being strong. Jingay is patient. Jingay is loyal. Jingay is kind, and Jingay is patient. The strong stop when being strong doesn't work. The smart give up when being smart doesn't help. The fast get hurt when fast isn't helping. But Jingay is not any of those things, so Jingay keeps going no matter what, because patience is a power and Jingay is patient. Jingay explains and Miles nods. He doesn't understand why, with all the advanced technology, that there isn't some kind of way to heal developmental disabilities. But it could be something similar to that story Flowers for Algernon, where a disabled person was made a genius and became well and truly miserable. Things are all right. There's nothing wrong with you, Miles says, and she giggles. Jingay has many problems. Her rattle isn't as loud. She can't slither as fast or as strong. There is much Jingay is lacking, but Jingay doesn't stop until she wins. Every time Jingay tries something, tries to stop her, but she only needs to win big one time. The second to last story, Miles says, and Jingay nods. Makes all the others seem small, Jingay says. Jingay loses money, Jingay loses time, Jingay loses things, Jingay loses friends. Jingay wins a family. When Jingay is done, she is the oldest mother in the biggest family. I see the value of persistence, a wonderful trait. Miles agrees. Yes, Jingay says, coiling around him fully and snuggling down. So warm. She just holds him and he lets himself drift away in the sensation. Nagasha are cooler than humans physically, but not unpleasantly so. Normally the sensation of a massive snake wrapping around you would probably be freaky, but the fact that her breasts are pressing into him, that she's subconsciously grinding her hips somewhat, and she clearly smells like a woman while nuzzling him is taking away from all of that. In fact, if she wasn't already fast asleep, he'd have assumed she wanted sex. The woman is a master of the mixed message. He lets himself fade and nap in her coils before waking up an hour later and finding out that he's got a slight difficulty. He needs to go to the bathroom. It takes a bit of squirming, and thankfully she opens up to let him go. He slips out and then returns to sit against her. She squirms a little herself and is resting her head against his lap as he reads a bit off his communicator. He runs a hand through her hair and considers the situation. With Agenda and Vuni, it was very upright and very much swimming in the glory of basically owning a world. But with the bridge crew, very low-key and simple. Jingay straight up didn't seem to understand their changes in position, if she even understood she was a pirate to begin with, and the rest of the girls didn't seem to care. It was nice, actually. Just being with them, being there for them. Listening and being willing to just cuddle with them meant so much to these women. Jingay was straight up trying to share her culture with him so he could understand both the deep Krag Nagasha and what it meant to be a Jingay. Which, the more he thought about it, the more he realized was more of a title that she had, and she had a name beyond it, which she had never shared with anyone, not even him. And that thought alone was enough to unpack a huge amount from the fact that the culture has a ready-made answer, title, and place in society for the mentally disabled, and slow means that the problem is high profile or pernicious enough to actually require a widespread solution. Which is a curiosity by itself as to why such a thing would be needed. Is it something to do with the axiom rattles? A byproduct of their homeworld, their culture, their diets, something else? He pushes himself away from that mental rabbit hole and considers what he's going to be doing after this. The day is fairly standard, with today being penned in for Jingay and tomorrow for Hani the Drin. She was fine to spend time with. She had a habit of carving things out of wood, and to watch her work with the wood held between two palms and the other four, just going at it until there's something recognizable, is just surreal. Although he had been less than amused when she carved a scale model of his penis right in front of him, that she justified it as being one of her favorite things didn't help all that much, even if it was a little bit of a spit shine to his ego. In a couple of hours, he would be heading to the gun range. His sniping skills needed to be constantly maintained, and no one can accurately quick draw if they don't spend a lot of time on it. On average, he pushed an entire crate worth of ammo down the range at ballistic velocity each week. The less said about the sheer amount of skeet he's destroyed, the better. Thankfully, the recycling and manufacturing they've set up meant they were all but drowning in ammunition, so he and his boys, as well as anyone else who decided they liked kinetic weapons, could practice all they wanted and keep enough on them to tear through an entire army. "Miles?" Jingay asks softly. "Yes? Is something wrong?" he asks, and she blinks blearily before smiling. "Just making sure." She murmurs before squirming to be closer to him. "Making sure of what?" he asks, fiddling with her hair a little. "That it's not a dream. I have a husband, I'll be a mommy. I was so worried I wouldn't get my last 2 stories. They're happening. Don't you worry," he says. And with a shake of her rattle, Jingay moves closer.